Will Kyle Shanahan ever win a ring?
That's
Let me
fair.
throw some numbers at you.
As a head coach or
As a head
just
coach.
okay.
As a coach, period. Because he's got 3 appearances, one as an OC for Atlanta in, the infamous 28-3 game.
Mm-hmm.
And then now 2 for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan, in the second half or overtime of the Super Bowls that he's been in, has been outscored 29-74.
Whew.
And he's 0-3.
74 points, man. That's a lot.
Was there anything in this game that stood out to you from a play calling standpoint that you could kind of lead back to Kyle Shanahan? Or was it really just dumb luck with a blocked PAT and a muff pump that bounced off of the guy's foot?
I thought there was a stretch, mostly in the middle of the game, where they weren't running the ball as much as I thought they should have been or could have been. I know Tony Romo was mentioning it on the broadcast a bit, but I felt like they were just having Purdy drop back and just try to kind of chuck it down there multiple times when I thought they should have been trying to run the ball more. And maybe, they wanted to save McCaffrey, use more in the pass game. I mean, they have other running backs on their roster they could have used. That was probably my biggest thing. Besides that, nothing too crazy, but I think they should have ran the ball a little more. They were pretty successful when they did do it. They didn't do it a ton, like a moderate amount, and they did it a little bit more at the end of the game, end of regulation, I should say. Got back to it a little bit more, but really did kind of abandon that after the first quarter. It felt like
They came out basically saying in the first quarter, we're going to run the ball down your throat. And then they went a slightly more pass heavy in the second half, like you were saying. Ultimately, I don't really think there was much Kyle Shanahan did to point finger at him specifically in this one. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a run heavy scheme in the second half as well, because not only McCaffrey, but their backup Mitchell had a couple of great carries as well. Some of them got called back. There were a lot of penalties on that offensive line throughout the game. But really, no one lost this one for San Francisco outside of that muffed punt. It's crazy to say, but the special teams side of things for San Francisco kind of screwed them in this one.
actually, to be fair, that was kind of a thing for them throughout the season too, is that their special teams just kind of got dominated. Even throughout the playoffs, their special teams wasn't great. I mean, they lost that game to Cleveland earlier this year on a missed field goal. Honestly, San Francisco's special teams really did let them down throughout the course of the year. And that honestly might have been their biggest weakness that, like you said, did lead to their downfall.
Yeah, it's tough to see because their defense really did step up. Mahomes and that offense of Kansas City looked extremely uncomfortable until that muff punt. That was literally the spark that got the engine going for KC, because up until that point, they couldn't even get close to their own red zone. And then the floodgates opened. But tough luck. But I guess I'm going to ask the question again. Do you see Kyle Shanahan ever winning as a head coach in the NFL?
As a head, man, I say yes, because I feel like nothing against Brock Purdy either, because I think he's a really good QB. He's definitely the top half of the league. I say yes, especially if he can get like a superstar QB at some point. Like if he had Patrick Mahomes, if he had maybe a Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I think there's a really good chance that he gets a chance, like that he can win a Super Bowl with that team. I mean, he's made it to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo before. I know, great roster, but Garoppolo was kind of an average quarterback. I definitely think he has the ability as a coach to have guys play well and thrive in certain positions that they're put in. So I'll say yes, I do think he will win a Super Bowl in his career as one of the main featured coaches, if not the head coach.
It's crazy because This man can dominate the regular season and can dominate the NFC. It really is just the big game. And he's been able to sprinkle pixie dust on every quarterback, and they're able to look really good. I think Brock Purdy didn't do anything to lose his job, but he didn't necessarily help his case in this game either.
Mm-hmm.
He just, he did a good job, didn't do a bad job.
It's
I
funny
don't
because
really know what to say about Purdy because it's not like he did bad, but he didn't win the game.
He proved that he is at least a starting caliber QB. I mean, he already has proved that. But in that game, I mean, he played like a starting caliber QB, but also they really did put the ball in his hands to make things happen, and not a ton happened. So, I mean, maybe, Cam Newton was bringing up before the playoffs that, Tua, Dak, and Brock Purdy are game managers, and everyone lost their mind, and now here we are when none of those guys made plays for their teams, when it really mattered. And, Brock Purdy's just in his second year. There's definitely more to see from him. But, I mean, in that game, he was just kind of a game manager. Like you said, he didn't lose them the game. He's not why they lost, but he also didn't go win it for them at the same time.
It's fair. I mean, he was 23 for 38, 255 yards, a touchdown. Got sacked once. Didn't throw a pick or turn the ball over. But he failed to go and get you one when you needed it. But how many teams have a Patrick Mahomes? Right?
Not
If that's
many.
the question, if that's what we need to ask ourselves, then there are 0 teams outside of Kansas City that should win. Because we saw Lamar fail. Lamar, we can all agree, is probably a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. He has just as good of a defense, right? We've seen Josh Allen fall to Kansas City time and time again. The only quarterback that has ever beaten this dude is Joe Burrow or Tom Brady.
Yeah.
One's retired.